Before the nickname, before the highlights, before the Super Bowl ring, before the millions of fans and the fear he placed in every defense across the NFL, Tyreek Hill was just a young athlete from the American South with a gift that could not be coached, copied, or manufactured. He had speed. Not ordinary speed, not the kind of speed that simply makes a player useful, but the kind of speed that changes the entire shape of a football field. The kind of speed that makes defenders backpedal before the ball is even snapped. The kind of speed that turns a 5-yard pass into a 70-yard touchdown. The kind of speed that forces coaches to build game plans around one terrifying question. What happens if we let him get behind us? Tyreek Hill would eventually become known to the world as Cheetah, a nickname that sounded almost too perfect. A cheetah is built for explosion, for acceleration, for sudden violence in open space, and that is exactly how Hill looked on a football field. He did not just run routes, he attacked grass. He did not just separate from defenders, he erased them. One moment, a cornerback would be close enough to reach him, and the next moment, Hill would be 5 yards ahead, looking back for a ball that only a quarterback with courage could throw. But to understand why Tyreek Hill became one of the most dangerous players in modern football, you cannot begin with the touchdowns. You cannot begin with Kansas City or Miami or Patrick Mahomes or the Super Bowl. You have to begin with the hunger behind the speed. Hill was born on March 1st, 1994, and grew up connected to Georgia, a place far from the bright lights of the NFL. Long before national broadcasts said his name, long before defensive coordinators lost sleep trying to stop him, he was a young athlete trying to prove that the gift inside his body could become something real. At Coffee High School in Douglas, Georgia, people began to see what made him different. He was not the biggest athlete. He was not built like the traditional football prototype. But when he ran, everything changed. Track and field became one of the first places where his talent showed itself clearly. Sprinting is unforgiving. There is no hiding. No teammate can block for you. No scheme can save you. The gun fires, the body reacts, and in a few seconds, the truth is exposed. Hill learned early that his truth was speed. That speed would follow him into football, but football demanded more than raw acceleration. In a football, a player does not run alone in a straight line. He runs through chaos. He runs with defenders chasing him, angles closing, bodies flying, and collisions waiting at the end of every mistake. Speed in football is not just about how fast a man can move. It is about how fast he can process space, how quickly he can change direction, how violently he can stop and restart, and how confidently he can keep control when the entire defense is trying to break his rhythm. Hill had that rare combination. He could explode in a straight line, but he could also cut with balance. He could run away from people, but he could also make them miss in tight space. He could return kicks, return punts, carry the ball, catch passes, and change a game in a single touch. His path to the NFL, however, was never clean or easy. Tyreek Hill did not walk directly into a major college program as a protected superstar. He went through Garden City Community College in Kansas, a stage that forced him to keep proving himself. That part of his journey matters because it shows that his rise was built through layers. Every level demanded another answer. Every new field asked the same question. Are you really that special? Or are you just fast? At Garden City, Hill showed that he was not simply a track athlete wearing football pads. He was a football player with track speed, and that distinction would become the foundation of his career. Many athletes are fast. Far fewer understand how to turn speed into production, and even fewer know how to make speed feel like a weapon. Eventually, Hill reached Oklahoma State, and with that move came a larger stage, stronger competition, and more attention. In 2014, he flashed the kind of ability that could make scouts dream. He could affect the game in multiple ways. As a runner, he was explosive. As a receiver, he was dangerous. As a returner, he was terrifying. His punt return against Oklahoma became one of those moments that seemed to reveal the future before it arrived. He found the ball, found a crease, accelerated, and suddenly the entire game tilted. Plays like that create belief. They make coaches imagine what a player could become. They make fans feel that they are watching something rare. But just as Hill's football future seemed to be opening, his life took a sharp and serious turn. He was dismissed from Oklahoma State after a domestic violence case, and that chapter became one of the defining parts of his public story. It cannot be erased, softened, or ignored if the goal is to tell the truth. Hill later pleaded guilty in 2015 to domestic assault and battery by strangulation, and the case followed him into the professional world. For many people, that changed the way they saw him forever. For NFL teams, it turned him from a gifted prospect into a complicated risk. Talent can attract attention, but trust determines whether doors stay open. In Hill's case, the talent was obvious, but so was the concern. His journey was no longer just about whether he could play. It became about whether any franchise would believe the reward was worth the risk. After Oklahoma State, Hill went to West Alabama, where he tried to continue his football career away from the biggest spotlight. That stage was not glamorous, but it was important. Sometimes a second chance does not come with applause. Sometimes it comes quietly, in a smaller program, with fewer cameras, with more doubt than praise. Hill had to rebuild his path there. He had to keep training, keep producing, and keep showing that his gift still belonged on a football field. But even as he tried to move forward, the past remained part of the conversation. That is one of the hardest truths about his story. Tyreek Hill's career is not a simple rise from struggle to greatness. It is a story of rare athletic brilliance living beside serious controversy, and both parts shaped how the world watched him. In 2016, the Kansas City Chiefs made the decision that changed everything. They selected Tyreek Hill in the 5th round of the NFL draft. Not the first round, not the second, not with the kind of celebration reserved for the safest prospects in football, the 5th round. That alone says something about how the league viewed him. He was too talented to ignore, but too controversial to fully embrace. He arrived in Kansas City, not as a guaranteed star, but as a question. Could he survive in the NFL? Could he become more than a return specialist? Could he turn world-class speed into professional dominance? Could a franchise trust him enough to give him a real role? Hill did not need much time to answer on the field. From the moment he touched the ball in Kansas City, the game felt different. There are fast players who look fast only when they have open space, and then there are players who create open space because of how fast they are. Hill belonged to the second group. He could take a return and make every defender's angle look wrong. He could catch a short pass and turn the sideline into a runway. He could motion across the formation and force the defense to communicate in panic. The Chiefs had not just drafted a fast player. They had discovered a stress test for every defense in the league. At first, Hill made his name through special teams and gadget plays, but his role quickly expanded because his talent demanded it. Coaches could not keep a player like that limited forever. Every time he received the ball, there was a feeling that something enormous could happen. That feeling is one of the most valuable things in football. Most plays are designed to gain a few yards, stay on schedule, and move the chains. Hill gave Kansas City something more dangerous: instant violence. A play did not need to be perfect. A block did not need to last long. A defender did not need to make a big mistake. With Tyreek Hill, even a small crease could become a disaster for the opponent. The nickname Cheetah became more than branding. It became a warning. When Hill lined up, the defense had to respect the possibility of the deep ball on every snap. That respect changed everything. Cornerbacks played farther back. Safeties shaded his side. Linebackers widened their drops. Defensive coordinators adjusted coverage before the play even began. This is how a player becomes more than his statistics. Hill could influence a game without touching the ball. His presence stretched the field vertically and horizontally. He created fear, and fear creates space. Space creates opportunity. Opportunity creates offense. That is why his speed became strategic power. Then Patrick Mahomes became the starting quarterback, and Hill's career entered another dimension. Some partnerships in sports feel almost inevitable once they happen. Mahomes had the arm strength to reach any blade of grass, the imagination to throw from impossible platforms, and the confidence to take shots most quarterbacks would not attempt. Hill had the speed to outrun coverage, the acceleration to separate late, and the instinct to find open space when plays broke down. Together, they turned the Chiefs' offense into one of the most terrifying shows in football. Mahomes could extend the play, and Hill could keep running. Mahomes could launch the ball deep, and Hill could go get it. A defense could cover perfectly for 3 seconds and still lose everything in the fourth. That combination changed the way opponents defended Kansas City. The field became bigger than it was supposed to be. Every route had danger attached to it. A short motion could become a jet sweep. A quick pass could become a touchdown. A broken play could become a bomb down the sideline. When Hill was on the field, the defense had to protect not just the design play, but the possibility of chaos. And chaos was where he thrived. He did not need the game to be clean. He did not need every route to look textbook. He needed one hesitation, one bad angle, one safety leaning the wrong way, and then the race was over. The 2019 season brought the moment every NFL player dreams about. The Chiefs reached Super Bowl live against the San Francisco 49ers, and for much of that game, Kansas City was under pressure. The 49ers were physical, disciplined, and aggressive. Mahomes struggled at times. The Chiefs' offense did not look unstoppable. The clock was shrinking, the deficit was real, and the possibility of disappointment hung over everything. But great players and great teams are often remembered not for how they dominate early, but for what they do when the game begins to slip away. In the fourth quarter, Kansas City needed a spark, and one of the most important plays of that comeback became forever connected to Hill. The play known as WASP sent him deep down the field, and Mahomes, under pressure, found him for a massive gain. It was not just a completion, it was an emotional break in the game. The defense felt it. The Chiefs felt it. The stadium felt it. From there, Kansas City came alive, completed the comeback, and won the Super Bowl. For Tyreek Hill, that championship placed him on the biggest stage in football and confirmed what his talent had been threatening to become for years. He was not merely fast, he was a championship-level weapon. After the Super Bowl, Hill continued building a career that forced people to discuss him among the most dangerous offensive players in the league. He made Pro Bowls, earned All-Pro recognition, and kept producing the kind of highlights that made him feel almost unreal. But what separated Hill from players who were only fast was the evolution of his craft. Over time, he became a more complete receiver. He learned how to manipulate leverage, how to attack blind spots, how to use the threat of speed to create space underneath, and how to turn defensive fear into consistent production. When a cornerback gave him cushion, he could stop and take the easy completion. When a cornerback pressed, he could explode past him. When defenses doubled him, he opened the field for teammates. When they left him one-on-one, they were gambling with the scoreboard. That is the true nightmare of defending Tyreek Hill. It is not that defenders do not know what is coming. They know. Everyone in the stadium knows. The coaching staff knows. The broadcast crew knows. The fans know. The defender across from him has spent the whole week hearing the same warning. Do not let him get behind you. And yet, even with all that preparation, he still gets behind people. That is what makes speed at his level so demoralizing. It turns knowledge into helplessness. A defender can do everything almost right and still be late. In the NFL, almost right against Tyreek Hill often means 6 points. But the next major chapter of his career came when he left Kansas City. In 2022, Hill was traded to the Miami Dolphins, and the move created one of the biggest questions around his legacy. Was he great because he played with Mahomes? Was he a product of Andy Reid's system? Was he the perfect piece inside the perfect offense? Or was he a superstar who could carry his impact anywhere? Miami became the test. It was a new team, a new quarterback, a new system, and a new pressure. For the first time in years, Hill had to prove that his greatness did not belong only to the Chiefs. He answered immediately. In Miami, alongside Tua Tagovailoa, Hill remained explosive, productive, and terrifying. The Dolphins' offense became faster and more aggressive the moment he arrived. Defenses still backed up. Coordinators still adjusted. Cornerbacks still feared the deep route. Hill showed that the speed traveled with him. But more importantly, the impact traveled with him. He was not simply a passenger in Kansas City's machine. He was an engine of his own. His first season with Miami was a statement. But his 2023 season became something even bigger. He led the NFL in receiving yards, produced at an elite level, and reminded the entire league that he was still one of the most dangerous players alive with the football in his hands. That 2023 season matters because it changed the argument around him. It became much harder to say Hill was only a product of Mahomes. After watching him dominate in another uniform, he was still separating, still turning simple throws into explosives, still forcing defenses to play scared, still making the field feel too small. At his best, Hill was not just a receiver, he was a system breaker. He challenged the normal rules of defensive structure. Football is a game of angles, but Tyreek Hill's speed made angles collapse. What looked like a safe pursuit lane became useless when he accelerated. What looked like strong coverage became a highlight waiting to happen. And yet, even for the fastest man in football, time is undefeated. The body that creates greatness also pays for it. In the NFL, every route has a price. Every hit has a memory. Every cut, every sprint, every landing, every collision adds something to the body's ledger. For a player like Hill, whose identity was built on explosion, that price becomes even more important. Speed is a gift, but it is also fragile. It depends on legs, joints, timing, confidence, and health. One injury can change rhythm. One lost step can change how defenders play you. One season can change the way a team sees the future. By 2024, Hill's production had dropped from the outrageous heights of the previous year. He was still respected, still dangerous, still the kind of player defenses had to account for. But the numbers were not the same. Context mattered, injuries mattered, quarterback health mattered, and defensive adjustments mattered. Still, it was a reminder that no peak lasts forever. Then, in 2025, his season was cut short after only 4 games, and the story entered a different emotional space. The question was no longer simply who could stop Tyreek Hill. The question became how much longer Tyreek Hill could remain the version of himself that terrified the NFL for nearly a decade? That is the brutal question every great athlete eventually faces. Fans remember the peak version. They remember the touchdowns, the celebrations, the game-breaking plays, and the feeling that something incredible could happen every time the ball came his way. But the athlete lives with the other side. Treatment rooms, rehab, soreness, doubt, recovery, and the quiet knowledge that the body does not always obey the mind. Hill had built his legend on being faster than everyone else, but when the body starts to change, a player has to confront a new kind of opponent. It is not a cornerback, it is not a safety, it is not a defensive coordinator. It is age, pain, and uncertainty. In February 2026, the Miami Dolphins released Tyreek Hill, making his future in the NFL uncertain. For a player of his stature, that kind of moment is never small. It represents a shift from being central to a team's identity to becoming a question again. And in a strange way, that brought his story back to a familiar place. Tyreek Hill had entered the league as a question in 2016, and a decade later he found himself surrounded by questions once more. What could he still be? Could he return from injury? Could he adapt his game? Could another team believe in him? Could the old cheetah still appear, even in flashes, and remind everyone why defenses once feared him more than almost anyone? Whatever happens next, his legacy is already written in a way that cannot be ignored. Tyreek Hill changed the NFL because he changed how defenses treated speed. He showed that a smaller receiver could become one of the most dangerous players in football if his acceleration was rare enough and his skill developed enough. He turned deep coverage into a weekly obsession. He turned short passes into emergencies. He turned special teams into panic. He turned open grass into theater. He made fans stand before the play was over because they understood that once he found daylight, the race was usually finished. But his legacy is not simple, and it should not be treated as simple. Hill's story contains greatness and controversy at the same time. He produced unforgettable football moments, but his off-field history remains part of how many people judge him. Some fans focus on the touchdowns, the speed, the championships, and the entertainment. Others cannot separate the player from the serious chapters outside the game. That tension will always surround his name. He is not remembered only as a highlight machine, and he is not defined only by controversy. He exists in the uncomfortable space where rare talent and human consequence collide. That is why a truthful biography of Tyreek Hill has to hold more than one idea at once. It has to recognize the brilliance without pretending the shadows do not exist. It has to recognize the impact without turning him into a flawless hero. It has to recognize the speed, the discipline, the production, the championships, the reinvention, and the fear he created on the field, while also understanding that public greatness does not erase private judgment. In that sense, Hill's story is not just about football. It is about what happens when a man becomes famous enough for every part of his life to be amplified. On the field, though, the impact was undeniable. Few players made football feel as explosive as Tyreek Hill. Few players could bend a defense before the snap. Few players forced opponents to prepare for one touch the way they prepared for him. When he lined up wide, the defense felt it. When he motioned across the formation, the defense reacted. When he caught the ball in space, the entire stadium seemed to hold its breath. That is not normal production. That is presence. That is the kind of presence that separates stars from game changers. His career also tells a larger story about the evolution of offense in the NFL. The modern game values space, speed, motion, and explosive plays more than ever, and Hill became one of the faces of that evolution. He was not the biggest receiver, but he did not need to be. His value came from how quickly he could threaten every level of the field. He could stretch defenses vertically, punish them horizontally, and create openings for everyone around him. In Kansas City, he became part of an offensive revolution. In Miami, he proved that the revolution did not belong to one team. He carried it with him. What made Hill truly special was the way his speed created emotion. There are players who produce strong numbers without changing how a game feels. Hill changed the feeling. When he was on the field, the game had suspense. Every snap carried danger. Every defensive mistake felt fatal. Every time the quarterback looked his way, something in the air changed. Fans did not just watch him run, they anticipated the explosion. That anticipation is part of his legacy. He made football feel faster, more sudden, more unstable, and more alive. And that is why the image of Tyreek Hill will last. The ball rises. The defender turns. The safety takes one step too shallow. Hill accelerates. For a moment, it looks like a race. Then it does not. That was the magic. He could turn competition into separation so quickly that the viewer almost needed the replay to understand what had happened. A defender who looked safe was suddenly beaten. A play that looked contained was suddenly open. A game that looked under control was suddenly changed. Tyreek Hill did not become the fastest man in American football only because of stopwatch speed. He became that because he made speed matter at the highest level. He made it translate. He made it hurt. He made it decide games. Track speed gave him the gift, but football turned that gift into legacy. Garden City gave him a step. Oklahoma State gave him a stage and then a fall. West Alabama gave him a second chance. Kansas City gave him the platform. Mahomes gave him the perfect partner. The Super Bowl gave him the crown. Miami gave him the chance to prove independence. The later injuries and uncertainty gave the story its final weight. In the end, Tyreek Hill's life in football is the story of a man who built an empire out of seconds. His greatest plays did not take long. A first step, a burst, a cut, a ball in the air, and suddenly history was happening. He did not need to dominate every minute of a game. He only needed one moment, one mistake, one opening, one chance to run. And when that chance came, the field often belonged to him. He was not the tallest. He was not the safest. He was not the easiest figure to celebrate without questions. But he was one of the most electrifying players the NFL has ever seen. He turned speed into fear, fear into space, space into production, and production into legacy. And even as his future remains uncertain, the memory of what he did at full speed is already permanent. Because there are players who are remembered for numbers. There are players remembered for championships. There are players remembered for talent. Tyreek Hill will be remembered for all of that. But above everything else, he will be remembered for the feeling he created when he started running. The feeling that the game was about to break open. The feeling that no angle was safe. The feeling that every defender was already late. And somewhere inside that feeling is the story of his entire career. A young athlete from the South, carrying a gift no one could teach, running through doubt, through controversy, through opportunity, through glory, through pain, and through the impossible space between who he was and who he became. For 1 second, the defender thinks he still has a chance. Then Tyreek Hill accelerates, and the chance disappears.